Welcome back to Ready, Set, Sold. I'm your host, Bryan Vogt, and with me today I have an expert in lending, also a sponsor, Dave Hohe of New American Funding. Dave, thanks for rejoining us. We were talking about the last segment. One of the things that kind of shows, in my mind, on the real estate side of our market being so strong is that rates are actually going up. That's correct, right?
That is correct. That is kind of the buzz in our industry right now, is rates have gone up over the last couple of months. The market has been very volatile. When I talk about the market, I'm talking, stock market and some other the other market indices. But the rates have been trending up. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It's just a natural correction. Historically, rates have been at their lowest point over the last 8 to 10 years, which is unheard of, and the market is just correcting itself some. To account for the booming market, and also the Federal Funds Bank Federal Reserve Bank, has raised the short-term rates for the first time last year in the last several years, and they anticipate maybe doing it again this year is what I'm hearing. So.
And I think it's important, though, as I said before, is that usually it means that there's a stabilization of the market, too, that things not only in our area, in the Columbia and Fallon, Illinois, and Edwardsville, Skyforce Base, Mascoutah, Belleville, Swansea, and the list goes on in the Metro East. It means that the market is really, really gearing up, and I think that's important to know. So with some good and some bad, and like you said, having that rate increase, we're seeing a little bit more buyers. It doesn't mean that you can't buy something later down the road, but we're seeing more and more buyers being aware of that, and it's important that they take care of it now, because we don't know where rates are going to go.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I have a lot of clients that I've either pre-approved already or that I've spoken with that are just kind of taking the wait-and-see approach, thinking rates are going to come back down, because that has kind of been what's happened over the last several years. So I completely understand that. But all indicators that I've seen is that they're not going to in the short term. So it's really, really important that if you are looking to get pre-approved or looking to make an offer on a home, that you do it sooner rather than later. Because, again, I don't anticipate rates going down anytime soon. They're still low by historical standards, but you want to get the best opportunity for yourself. So acting sooner rather than later, to me, seems like the smart thing to do.
And the thing that you mentioned too is locked in. Meaning is locked in, and maybe kind of explain what we're talking a little bit more about that to the listeners of how what is the process of getting locked into a rate.
Yeah, simply locking a rate means you're locking that rate in on that specific day for that predetermined time, whether it be a 30-day close or a 15-day close, for instance. It locks in that rate, so you are guaranteed that rate cannot go up from there. Some people choose what's called float their rate, which is simply meaning they're not locking the rate and kind of playing the market, hoping it's going to come back down. But a lot of times when you gamble, you're kind of gambling with your financial future, because you could be stuck with a higher rate for the next, 10 to 30 years, depending on how long you lock in your rate for. So, what term you choose for your mortgage. So it's really just important. And again, getting the best rate is certainly important, but getting your loan closed is more important, and getting into the house that you really like is, the most important. So.
And our end too, and I think it's important to note that there are some lenders, dare we say it, and just with any profession, that maybe aren't as good and don't have the abilities to understand what's going on. Sometimes that's lack of experience, lack of knowledge. There still has that element out there. And I think that's why getting with someone such as you, Dave, and New American Funding, it becomes so important, is because with the years of experience that you have, well, this is a business that me and Dave have joked about. We always say we've seen everything, and then we see something different. But
right.
The point being is that you've seen about 95% of what's out there, and the other 5% what's just going to happen. And that's really important when you're picking a lender, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What I've seen time and time again is, a person that calls let's just say XYZ bank and asks, what's your rate? They get quoted a rate without that bank taking the time or the effort to really gather the information necessary to truly put together a plan and a strategic advantage for that client. In other words, offering them the best possible program for them and their family, not just throwing a sterile rate that they may or may not qualify for out there. And, then at that point, that customer really doesn't have anything other than, something that was told to them over the phone. And we really, really take our time to really put together the best possible opportunity for that client.
And I love what you said there, and I think it's really important to highlight it, and that is strategy. And I think that's important for our listeners to understand. We talked about it earlier, I think, in the last segment, about the idea of just plopping down, making some phone calls, and as you mentioned just earlier, too, about just checking rates out. That you want a lender that is going to literally take some time with you, and that you're going to have a strategy and what's going to work best for you. And that's a situation also if you're a seller. I often talk with sellers, and especially with a hot market like that it's never a bad idea to start talking to a lender the day you put your house on the market or even a week beforehand. Just start putting a plan together on, what could happen, how you're going to do this, what type of loan you're going to do, so that you have that working knowledge also. And I think that's really important, Dave, don't you think?
I can't emphasize enough, Brian, how important it is because, again, I've been doing it for a long time, not to keep hitting on that, but, it's so important for there to be the synergy in the transaction between the buyer, you as the agent, us as the lender. There's a title company involved, an appraiser. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, but our job is to make that as seamless as possible, and that's where the communication and the planning, I really like the buyers to be involved in the whole process. Not to bog them down with anything, but I want them to know every step of the way where we are, what we need, what the expectations are. I want everybody to be happy at the end. I mean, that is my main goal, and really, really digging into their wants and needs is the first step. So.
And I think that's important. But on the same token, I think it's important for people to understand it's still a simple process. Okay, it's still a simple process. When you have a well, again, for the experienced lender like Dave, it's still a simple process to go through, but it's like anything else. This is a business where something goes wrong, something is missed, something simple is missed. Unfortunately, it can have some very bad consequences for people. And I think that's the important part. It is something that you want to take some time with, but all in all, it's a simple process that once you understand the concepts and the strategies, and once you understand the buyer's needs or the sellers that's looking to buy, it becomes much, much simpler, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's just a lot of things that we deal with that the buyer wouldn't have to necessarily know about or be involved with, but I just like to keep them in the loop, so to speak, with regards to expectations with time and whatnot. Because it is just a time-sensitive transaction, but I think we're experts as far as that goes.
And that's true, too. I mean, like I said, there's always that balance between the two, but I think again, that's where experience, that's where comes knowledge. And yes, comparable rates, that's important, too. But sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle, and we see that on the buyer side and sometimes on the selling side, that the rate is one thing, and that is important, and you mentioned it, Dave. But again, one of the situations is making sure that you're getting the right loan. You're getting the right situation that's going to work for you, kind of like the tools in the toolbox. And you want to have that experience that you guys offer at New American Funding. So with that, we're running out of time here. I'm going to carry you over because we're going to be talking about that pre-approval letter and the importance of it, especially in a hot market. You've been listening to me, Bryan Vogt, Ready, Set, Sold with Dave Hohe at New American Funding. We'll see you soon.